Niels Bak Henriksen has just completed a residency in the Environmental Health Clinic. Niels Bak Henriksen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How was it? Did you thrive?
Yeah, I did. It's a more chaotic way of working than most other places, but I'm somewhat used to it.
Chaotic. But
Yeah.
there has to be benefit in that chaos.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's a criticism.
Oh yeah, but I love chaos, and
there's a power in chaos, right? What is the power of chaos?
The power of chaos?
Yeah.
You get pushed out of your comfort zone. You get pushed out of your initial thoughts or the standard way you work or the standard way you think by
But I actually think you have to draw more on that.
Mm-hmm.
because I liken the difference between playing a prepared piece of music that's composed and you can perform well or not well, or improvising.
Mm-hmm.
And improvising is not a free-for-all. It's highly structured, and it's like the feeling of chaos, right? But it's very responsive, and it's very on your toes, and it's very, oh, what's gonna happen now? And in some sense, you have to draw on every single piece of rehearsed, way of doing things and pull them together in ways that you never have before. So I actually, I think I spent a lot of time criticizing myself and pedagogical lessons that I was always learned in engineering is you have Gantt charts, you have well-described roles, you have plans, and you have time budgeted and resources organized that never works for me. It never works. And the more that I try to use it, the less it works.
Yeah.
And the more that there's a kind of a very clear lesson that I have. The more I talk and plan and try and organize something, often makes it more difficult, because that means I'm committed to a plan instead of responding to the specifics of the opportunity, like yesterday, right? In producing the
exhibition in
the
London.
Exhibition,
yeah.
Where I had all these plans, we had all these exhibition layouts, but in fact it was rethinking it again in situ with this completely unpredictable event that this poor kid has been killed.
Yeah.
Just before my exhibition, an exhibition that's about how do we redesign the campus so that it improves our shared health, so it doesn't kill people, right? It's so, and I'm still not able to respond to that. But the thing is, I think there's a necessary discomfort.
This has been a really nice display of what I've read about Schön. Actually.
About what?
Schön.
Donald Schön. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
It's the swampy lowlands and reflection on action, inaction, and stuff like that, which are the founding theories behind my education.
Right. So I think you should restate for our audience of us.
Yeah.
And maybe your mother.
Maybe my mother.
No, for the record.
Yeah.
That because Donald Schön, his work was important to me. And although one of the questions that I think you're grappling with is, what is it we do here? And I've called it xDESIGN because it's very hard for me to name what the activity is that I'm doing. Is it art? for the DDC this morning. They have very specific ideas of what art is. Is it design? Well, it's not service design. Is it interaction design? Well, maybe sometimes if it's necessary.
Yeah.
Is it digital media? What is it that you wanted to do, and what is it that you have done, and what is it that you will do? And how is that this experience here kind of made concrete what Donald Schon has he was a very specific discussion of design.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Big D design.
Yeah.
And to some extent that's important. It's an important precedent. But that's not what we're doing, right? He's made
not
possible.
Exclusively.
Yeah, he's made that possible, and he expanded the debate of what counts as design, but he was really talking to straight designers.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that the role of the straight designer for service, that you can hire Niels Bak Henriksen to design this for you, is a career path anymore. I think it's something more like an xDESIGNER. That's what I'm trying to get you to articulate.
Yeah, I like the title xDESIGNER, and yeah, it's very fluid. What I've done, it's difficult to put in boxes, and there's a lot of people who want things in boxes.
Yes.
Because that makes them easy to rearrange or have an overview over. So you want me to?
I want you to say, what do you feel like you have done, and what do you feel like? Hey, how's it different from what you thought you were going to do? Although maybe you didn't
really have that many
expectations.
That sounds negative in a way, but no, I didn't. It's not negative. But yeah, I wasn't sure of what I was going into, and I didn't know if you had any other interns or how many would be involved, and and I found out it's pretty much just us.
Yes. And that's interesting, because I get, frankly, I get very jealous of these big architectural and design offices that have teams of people working in them. But then it's kind of confusing, because then I don't know who's responsible, right? Mm. Who do I credit?
Yeah.
These cool looking designs that are really nicely produced. Who do I really credit, and who's? So I really like the very intimacy of, do I think I should have a big design office to meet the commitments that I've made? Yes. Mm-hmm. Have I asked you to fill in all sorts of gaps? Yes.
Yeah.
And help me figure things out. But and to some extent, that means you're much more responsible, I think, conceptually. If I'm asking you to jump onto whatever, maybe 45 different projects that you were worked on here.
A lot, yeah.
I think there's, again, I'm going to try and argue there's a value in this. And I'm just arguing for you to kind of think about it in terms of what you actually did. Because Schon and the kind of idea that we do understand what we design in a kind of ethnographic way, that actually details the actual actions that we are, that it's not something outside of the action research of doing stuff. Mm-hmm. Is part of the work, as opposed to a different stream of the work, right? Yeah. So what do you think you did here? If you were describing what you did, if you were documenting, off what you did, and then I would like to elaborate because
Yeah. One of the most important things I need to do is to sit down in a couple of days and really think about what I've done.
Okay. But let's get a start on that. Get a head start on that now, and just list off the things, like just the projects that were interesting and yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing. I think all the projects are interesting to me. That's why I'm here in the first place. If I wasn't interested, then I wouldn't be here. I have some specialties, but I've done a lot of other things. I've been editing videos, opened up R2D2s, did graphic web design,
which you came in swearing not
conceptual design, thinking, discussing, reflecting on, and I learned a lot about the environment. That's a thing I've never really been that interested in. To start with, it was your way to communicate, and not as much what you communicated that was interesting to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was
interesting.
More. It was more the
interesting, the methodological, the kind of the use of tech in rather than the
and how everything fit together. It's really elegant and oftentimes a humorous way to tackle a really serious problem. So initially it could be a lot of other problems that would have given me the same feeling. But now I've been introduced the hardcore way to many of the environmental issues, at least here in the United States, and a lot of it is just, the trip to Vermont, when you talk to the locals, a lot of it just went over my head. I had no idea what you guys were talking about. But yeah, I have a bigger understanding. I have that my challenge right now is to place myself in all of this.
Okay.
To my stay here has been my main task. For me is to absorb as much as possible.
Right.
And I need to fill that at some point.
Yeah. But that's but it's the same task that I'm doing, right? So really placing yourself, right? What is it now that you do, right? How do you place yourself within the kind of large spectrum of environmental, climate change, whatever, morass? Where do we place ourselves? And then, what I call the crisis of agency. Where do we place what it is we can do, what it is we are doing, whether or not our work has any value, whether it only has value if it scales, if, so I'm particularly interested in, that's a question of what is it worth keeping on doing, given how, I mean, so, frankly, it's useful for me to talk through things with you. You have practical ideas. You have just a commitment to figuring it out no matter what, right? Which is the thing I most like. And it's so rare. Just trying something and doing it and having a resourcefulness to do something. So that's what I've really appreciated, in contrast to other people that have been working with us. And my dear darling daughter, who is very wonderful, but is much, I think, I would love for her to feel like she can just do something. And I get very frustrated because I feel like she's waiting for me to tell her what to do. And I don't know what I'm doing, right? I'm trying to figure out. So I don't know what she can do, and I don't know what you can do. But, you know, given that here's the vague area of what we can do, I can think about what I think she can do. But it's anyway. Thank you for your help in negotiating that delicate and an important relationship. But it really is. I mean, she's smart and clever and good, and the confidence to actually do something and figure something out technically is something you have, and I think it's very hard to teach people or give people or to even know that you have it, right? And because I think to some extent, I mean, I get stuck a lot, but I think many people are much more cautious in scoping their projects in ways that they know what they can do. And therefore they do a project that's around what they can do, as opposed to, here's a question that I'm really interested in, and let's see, you know, how do we redesign Toronto's worst neighborhood?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. Let's start with something that's conceptually interesting. And now this methodology that I think has come out of a to and fro with you to do with having a Unity game engine and a the capacity to render stuff in a 3D form that gives us an appearance of systematization and a legibility to a video game community. So that populist legibility, but also it's, I think, really conceptually useful way to think about how small interventions, interactions, mutualisms might spread in space and time, right? We do need to be thinking about these issues algorithmically. And I am thinking about them algorithmically, but it's very hard to represent that algorithm and to have other people understand, oh, this is going somewhere. This is not just a particular little nice little moth cinema, cool, sweet, how nice, lovely, over. But this is a paradigm, a pilot, an exploration that can lead into more systematic change. So that, I mean, it's one of the kind of representational challenges that I think working with you has really helped me take forward.
Yeah.
Because you bring a different vocabulary and competency and willingness to throw a video together and build a Unity thing, or have a sense about what we could do in Unity that I think has really been very powerful for me because I trust your resourcefulness, and rather than me having to do all the research myself to figure it out, I can kind of shortcut through your brain to, you know, we can get further on things. And I think, you know, you've done the same thing. You've shortcut through my brain on some complex environmental issues,
Sure.
to be able to start articulating. So I do what I feel like I've made progress in your residency is, I think this has been a successful mutualistic relationship. In that it's been very productive for me, and I hope it's been very productive for you. And to me, you know, why and how we work with people, how do we organize work, how do we get projects done? Like, do we organize them in a conventional studio? In my recent experience in working with Room Cool House and in the Cool House offices, I did not find that a very useful way to work. And I thought it was emotionally traumatic for people, and it was really, so I'm now looking at things that are the icon of productivity and glamorous design, and realizing that actually there is something in the much more ad hoc, chaotic, unfunded, but therefore not accountable to horrible city agencies, or, you know, because we don't have funders that we have to account to. We do what's cool and interesting and important, and are much more responsive in that way. So I think it's been a successful mutualistic relationship, and I think what it's been most successful at helping me articulate, and still, of course, needs to work, is this idea that we can do socio-ecological algorithms, that we design using social resources, technical resources, environmental resources, and hopefully even economic resources. I mean, with the mutualistic bestiary, I really want to produce these as retail exhibitable spaces. I mean, that's the exhibition space. With the whiteboard bike idea, I think that is a real tool for changing how we learn and discuss, and it's a teaching tool. I would like to productize that in some cool, inexpensive way, because it's not just an exhibition strategy for what we do. It's a way of structuring participation. It's a socio-ecological algorithm that says, one, design is a messy process, but it takes skills, and particular people are good at it. But communities need to be involved. Vast communities who are non-designers need to be involved. How do we do participatory design in a way that really works? We create concrete examples that have embedded in them some interesting technical, ecological, you know, things that draw from our various expertise. And then we put them up and create a forum where people can understand them. They're invited to understand them, and they're invited to understand them not as a spectator, but as an active participant. And that's this critical thing that I think we've done with the whiteboard / bike / I think that works, because it's not only exhibiting what we've done, it's exhibiting how we work, our interest in bikes, and that how we work is always and already changing, right? It's always and already being reinvented. Anyway, so the projects that I think would be exciting to keep co-developing with you are the Bike Messenger project. How Denmark does Bike Messenger as a non-subculture, I think, is a really interesting international comparison, right? If we did a Bike Messenger public media profile, how would that play out differently in Denmark to how it would play out here on college campuses or around? I think that's a hugely interesting thing. And it's a nice little blinky design, concrete project. We could develop it as a after school program, right? That could be sold in a Danish high school. Come and do this, assemble this. And while people are assembling, we're saying, here's some interesting stories about your local environment. Here's how you can collect your information. Here's how you can make phenological observations. Here's, that idea of that being part of the blinky generation
Sure. Yeah.
is actually also this invitation to not just be push media,
Yeah,
and not just be geolocated push media, which is cool, right? But it's geolocated push media, and the fact that cyclists are not bus stop ads. Yes, they are a way to deliver images into the popular imagination, and they're only going to deliver the kind of images that, it's not going to be Coca-Cola ads or, but they're also the best way. It's that feedback loop of that information they're co-producing, right? And and I think that's actually the challenge of the environmental health clinic, right? Is if you were to open up an environmental health clinic, xDESIGN kind of branch there,
yeah,
what is it critical to have? To my sense, it's just critical to have a person doing interesting designs, and it's got the right sensibility, and that's the only thing I can say. You have the right sensibility, the je ne sais quoi of a kind of resourcefulness, a kind of participatory commitment, and a kind of, I'm not that interested in presentation for presentation's sake, right? Which is what the design community is driven by.
Yeah.
High production value.
Yeah.
Stuff. So there's something about the aesthetics of sensibility. So yeah, so the bike messenger, and as I think of the bike messenger as the, if you will, the website for the environmental health clinic, right? The appropriate public media channel for input, output. It's not about long form essays and well-produced videos. It's about, a couple of icons that say, hey, there's some birds migrating. Hey, there's some mussels in this bike path. Hey, there's things here that you might not know about, and there's ways that you can be involved in. So this is still an open question. And I think tree cloud data, I don't know how falls into that, right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit more unwieldy for me still, but it's getting more concrete in places. The exhibition at Connecticut College, what's his name was saying, Nadav was saying last night, is just set it up, put a server there on the wall, put the paper there, of how much paper it will take to run it. Even if it's not running, just have the blinky on the server going, and actually, if you will, use the actual, an old PC server that's about to be thrown out, and a pile of paper, and there's these pyrolytic ovens that you can get that are nice, that I'll adapt, but haven't yet, right? It's still a bit scary to do high pressure, extremely high temperature gas turbine things, but we'll get there.
Yeah.
And yeah, by actually just putting the material there and seeing how much paper, this paper will run this for how long, right?
Yeah.
I think for me, that's the better way to take a project forward than, using the divestment campaign. I mean, that's fine, and I really want to keep going. But, you know, looking at how the divestment campaign projects have been done, that's not activism to me, right?
Yeah. The doing stuff is also more compelling to me.
Yeah, yeah. And it relates to it. We've got to work with the kind of conventional activism, but it's really, it's not, I can't, you know, the reason why I haven't edited these and finished the letter to faculty is because it feels like a very formal letter where I'm somehow trying to convince everybody that this is a good thing to do when I'm still trying to figure out what it is myself to do, right? It's just a very paternalistic kind of knowing kind of stance in the world that I think is very different from, actually, we just have to experiment with what works and keep building it. And I know that waste to energy processes to power computation is a good thing. Do I want to try and convince a whole set of people who have no interest in waste to energy, no interest in cloud, no interest in, do I want to do all that heavy lifting first? No, I want to figure out how to do it. Yeah. Right. So it's this tear that I have about what we know is activism, what looks like activism, what looks like it scales well and has emphasis, versus what is a believable, interesting, compelling process that I feel like I can do, right? That's, anyway. So that's the tree cloud data. I would love to keep your input in, keep figuring out how we can do computation in ways that is environmentally interesting, generative, positive. The fundamental idea that the conflict between understanding that these computers on which we spend so much of our life and do so much of our work, you know, and the cloud data storage behind it and the infrastructure behind it is invisible and bad and could be better. Yeah. And that we first and foremost have to know that we can redesign this as part of the, yeah. Okay, so they're the two things that tree cloud data and the bike messenger, frankly, I'd like to keep developing muscle choir with you and the Roskilde as well. But just tell me, do you feel like you can do stuff on those two things, and how would we do it, and what would we do? Would we?
I'm getting back to be a full-time student, so I won't have the same time, unfortunately, but I might be able to incorporate some of it into my courses, right, to make it useful. And the Roskilde stuff, I'm probably going to meet up with Ida and Dea, I think. Yeah, in Copenhagen next time I'm there to talk about it face to face. It's easier.
Yeah.
And I really want to do something for Roskilde, and I've wanted to do something for Roskilde since the first time I was there. So
good.
Yeah, it's
well,
and it's almost 10 years ago. So I've really wanted to do something that's bigger than sleep in a tent and drink beer.
Yeah. Which is nice.
Yeah, it's nice. It's fun.
I think
concerts.
I think that's the other conversation I'd like to keep going is very clearly Roskilde is unique around the world, and it is the opportunity of, is this a place of social experimentation? And what would be the right experiments to do there? Mm-hmm. Food experiments, energy experiments, transportation experiments, participatory research, what is it what could we do there that people could take back with them, or, you know, to do everything that Burning Man doesn't do, which is Burning Man is hold everything inside, do all your weird stuff here as your little party inebriation and coolness, and then go back to your job as a software developer in Palo Alto, and you know, nothing changes, right?
Yeah.
So that's the idea. That's frog poop. I'm gonna keep all the frog poop. Yes.
Really?
They do big fat poops. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I'll make a necklace out of frog poop.
Yeah. Why not? But I really think that Roskilde would be really interested, and I think they would let us build a clinic over there, as really building a clinic, and found the all the materials that we need to do that. So
That's a great idea.
So
yeah.
we can make workshops,
Exactly.
make
Yeah.
experiments to
Uh-huh.
go around and spread the word of the environmental health clinic.
Fantastic.
And I really, I think
That they would put enough money in it to really.
Yeah.
And then we can run several workshops there.
Yeah, it's not just.
We can do food, we can do energy, we can do bike messenger. How long are people there for? 4 days or something?
A week.
A week.
Yeah, it's 5 days of warm up. It's called, where people do stuff that is non-music related, and then there's 4 days of music.
Interesting.
Yeah. And
wow.
every area, just a second, has its own center, city center. So okay, the site is a lot different now. Okay, this will do. So this is the festival area, and all of this is the camping area.
I see.
And this is locked off in the warm-up days. So there's a lot of activities, and in form of
what is this area? Parking or something?
No, it's actually an old, I'm not even sure what it's called in English. A hole where they dig up gravel.
A quarry, yeah.
Yeah, quarry. Yeah.
Cool.
But I'm pretty sure it's gone next year.
I see.
It's been really big. But
they're filling it in.
Yeah, they're filling it in to, they've stopped digging there. But this is a city center where there's a lot of activities, both artistic and workshop and whatever. And there's another one over here.
And what about, could we do a tree structure, a really nice tree office as the clinic?
Yeah, I think so. There's some trees.
And then actually people could take the tree offices with them and set them up in their own. You know, if we built the tree office in Roskilde and used it for the event, and then it could be taken and reassembled in a different neighborhood.
Yeah, sure.
Because I think you're right.
And place make it to visual run, and another.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the tree office symbolizes.
Yeah, and it's a great place for doing for having workshops under. You know, it creates the right context. In that it's a multi-level, you know, and we can in there kind of demonstrate, but we can have the kitchen is closed underneath, we can have a meeting space on the top, we can have different work environments, and we can have a tree cloud data storage to demonstrate how.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be the best thing ever. But I think they are already set for next year's art or workshop.
Huh. Okay. The other thing that we could do, when did it happen? It happens in midsummer.
Yeah, the first week of July.
Yeah. One of the things is doing an advertising campaign, you know, doing a couple of billboards that are living billboards
yeah.
for Roskilde. That might be easy to do as a kind of a short-term project. A sign outside their office in downtown Copenhagen. They're going to be putting up signage anyway, right?
Yeah.
We might do it.
They are not the ones who puts up these incredible big signs, but yeah,
Right.
they do some.
We could also do some butterfly bridges, right, as their banner, as their promotion thing. Just, you know, the whole thing of that undersurface is actually a good, even though it's not big, it's a really, people look at it.
Yeah.
Despite it not being big because of its. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that would be great if we plan for Roskilde 17. Oi.
Yeah, and what Ida and Dea suggested was to get an invitation for next year's Roskilde.
Oh, and go
look at what do we have around here and what challenges can we try to tackle to.
Right. Okay. Well, let's do that. And for that, because I've always wanted to build a tent with a water distillation thing inside it too.
Yeah.
A cloud, an unofficial cloud roof. And we should have a nice preliminary field office tent that we design for next year, 2016, July, you said.
July.
Okay. Travel safe. Thank you. Let me say for the record, thank you, Niels, for your hard work and good brain and good nature and everything. You're just fantastic to work with. Thank you.